Fertilizer application and weeding in farming are very important, and today we tackle that issue by understanding what proactive measures that a farmer needs to take to put in place for them to maintain high productivity in their farming practices. Dear viewers, welcome to Inside Agriculture with me, Emmanuel Mwemba. In the studio, I'm joined by agriculture expert Dr. Oliver Bulaya, who is also project and communications lead from Conservation Farming Unity. Dr. Bulaya, welcome to Inside Agriculture.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. I appreciate your invitation, and it's always my duty, being here on your set.
Very much, very much. Even as we talk about fertilizer application and weeding techniques in conservation farming, maybe we can just start by understanding what fertilizer application is and what weeding means.
Thank you so much. It is very important for our farmers, first of all, to understand that for every crop to be well established, it depends on the nutrient availability in the soil. And in this case, we are looking at some of the crops that we grow, especially cereals. These are heavy feeders. In cereals, for example, we are talking about maize. We are talking about sorghum, cotton, and these others. They deplete the soil nutrition in terms of the uptake of these nutritional nutrients in the soil each time that you grow them. So now, when we are looking at fertilizer applications, we are looking at how do we apply these nutrients back to the soils using various, technologies. It could be inorganic and organic, fertilizers. There are various formulations of these fertilizers that are inorganic. We are talking about chemical fertilizers or synthetic fertilizers in that case, and organic, we are talking about organic formulations in the case of microbial fertilizers. Others may use even manure, manure in the soils and all that, So all these are different important applications that are required in the soil for the same purpose of ensuring that we raise the nutrients levels in those particular soils.
Great, great. Coming to weeding, what is weeding for the farmer here in that?
Yes, weeding actually is clearing, unwanted pests. We refer to weeds as pests also because they are not wanted in the particular crop. So clearing, ensuring that the fields are weed free is the process we refer to as weeding.
Great, great, great. Diving now into our topic, fertilizer application and weeding in conservation farming. Why is precise fertilizer placement important in farming?
Yes, fertilizer placement is very important, to balance up with the nutrients that are required in the soil, and it is very important for farmers to place them adequately. This is why we are emphasizing issues of conservation agriculture, because conservation agriculture, through the minimum tillage in terms of basins and reaping, places the fertilizers within those specific furrows where they are needed, because they are needed by plants, by seeds, by plants. So it is important to ensure that we place them where they are needed. These are very expensive this time around. They are fetching very high prices. So it is very important for our farmers to use effectively these fertilizers. If they are not placed rightly, they may be washed away, by water. And they may also go through a process of leaching where the crops will not uptake, such kind of nutrients. And this will be a wastage of resources. So for microbial activity, they need to be used and to be uptaken, appropriately, especially if they are well placed.
Great, great. Many farmers, when applying fertilizer, they like using personal initiatives. They mix different types of fertilizers and then apply to different crops. Is that advisable in farming?
No, it is not. And this year, actually, we've done a lot of sensitization. Ministry of Agriculture, they've done a lot of sensitization, and ourselves as Conservation Farming Unit. But for us, our farmers are well versed in terms of understanding the essence and different levels of applications of these nutrients, because they enhance the productivity. Actually, we've seen some of the farmers mixing. Actually, it's not a small percentage. You know, when you go in the field, you see many of the farmers talking about mixing of these fertilizers, D and urea. And this shows the gaps that are there in the agricultural sector, or the challenges the farmers are facing. Because this shows that, one, farmers probably they would want to take advantage of the fertilizers that they have. They may be minimal, they may not be enough. So mixing is more like a way of reducing, you know, the requirements, you know, for particular portions. And others is because of conventional tillage. They are not very sure, is the crop going to emerge? And in that case, you see that many of these farmers, they wait for the crop to emerge, and this is when they will apply the fertilizers by mixing, of which this is a very dangerous position that has been taken by many farmers, because the crops do not utilize these specific, you know, fertilizers. When we are talking about D compound, it has its own use. The NPK, 10, 20, 10% ratios. They have their own kind of work that they do at particular times. Urea has got all its own work at particular time when the crop has already emerged. So all these are distinct fertilizers that are required at particular times. So mixing is not the right thing to do for the farmer, because it affects low productivity, which is mainly experienced by many of our farmers in our country.
Great, great. When it comes to the timing of fertilizer application, when is the best time to apply top and basal dressing fertilizer?
Yes, that is, Emmanuel, a very important question. Farmers should apply D. Actually, D is referred to as a basal, meaning down.
Yes.
You know, it has to be placed down. Others referred to it as underdresser. It has to be placed down. So, meaning that for D compound, it has to be placed before planting or at planting period, not long time before. So within that range, within that period, before planting or actually at planting, it has to be placed. The reason is simple. For well establishment of the root system, we have 10% of nitrogen, we have phosphorus 20%, and potassium 10%. All these have different works that they do. Potassium helps the crop for well establishment of the root system. The phosphorus, the potassium also helps the crop, to uptake, nutrients, water, from the soil. So for the strong root formation, it is very important to ensure that the farmer places their basal before planting or before planting, so that the crop, as it emerges, it taps into the nutrients, the D that is already in the soil, for strong root formation and for the vigor, of that particular crop. So doing it vice versa, meaning a farmer will miss out with the very important elements that are required before the crop emerges from the soil.
Great, great. What benefits do a farmer who is applying fertilizer appropriately gets from that act?
Thank you so much. And I think even before I get to that one, you mentioned also the appropriate timing, especially of D and urea, if I remember very well. I didn't talk about urea. So urea is required 21 days after the crop has emerged. Others talk of knee-high. Knee-high is just for those people that are not able to maybe to follow the calendar properly or to read or to understand, the stage of application. But it's very important, 21 days, because people have different knee heights, or centimeters and so on. So we may not get the right reading in that case. So we need to do follow the 21 days to ensure that we apply urea. And urea is very important also for the vegetative growth. In this, using a simple term, the formation of the leaves, how strong the leaves are, they also attract, how strong the cobbing system or the fruiting stage will be, and the cobbing of the crops, especially for those that are growing maize. So how good, how strong, and how healthy the leaves are associated also to production and productivity. So this is required at 21 days. And for those farmers that may do the split application, actually, they may even apply urea just before tasseling of these various maize, for example. This is the main crop that we are referring to mainly. So it has to be applied before tasseling. So this is split application, and it depends on various soil types. Especially for those with light soils, it is very important, to do the split application of urea so that the crop uptake all these nutrients, sufficiently. It is very important to use these fertilizers effectively, because these are synthetic. If we are talking about these synthetic, they are chemicals, they are synthetic. So if we use them appropriately, a farmer will be able to benefit. And what do we target, first of all? Even when we are applying these basals, I mean these top dressing, for example, even basals, we are addressing the soils. We are applying this to enhance the soil nutrition. These fertilizers do not just go direct to the crop. They enhance the microbial activity of the soils and improve the structure of the soil, so that at the end of the day, a farmer may gain yield which is expected from the crops that they are investing in their soil. So what you get from the soil depends on what you are putting in the soil. So this is why Emmanuel is a very important topic, in the case that many of our farmers miss it out, and in this case it affects their productivity level. So it is important to apply appropriately with good dosage of these chemicals or fertilizers to enhance the soil nutrition that will benefit also the crop.
Great. Even as we, when discussing fertilizer application, we can't do away with weeding, because a farmer can't apply fertilizer in a field full of weeds. Why is early and timely weeding important in farming?
Thank you so much. Weeds are pests. They are not wanted by the crop. They are not wanted by farmers. So it is important from the early stage to the late stage to ensure that our crops are weed-free. Because if our crops are not weed-free, they'll start competing with the fertilizers, the nutrients in the soil. The weeds will compete same nutrients that are required by every crop that is grown. They would want to uptake the nutrients. They would want to uptake the same water and also compete with the sunlight that is required and the air that is required. So all these some of the negative effects of allowing weeds, in the fields. Like I mentioned from the beginning, fertilizers are very expensive. So it is very important for farmers to utilize these fertilizers effectively. And how can the crop uptake these fertilizers efficiently? That's by ensuring that weeds are done away with. They are cleared in the fields at early stage and at late stage, Emmanuel. These weeds have seeds. They have seeds. So do not allow the weed to seed.
Yes.
Because if you allow the weed to seed at a later stage, this is why you've seen that many fields are infested with weeds year in, year out. The weed cycle is multiplying because a farmer allows the weed to seed at a later stage. Oh, because I've applied the fertilizer at early stage, I've weeded at early stage, let me leave these weeds,
Yes.
So when you leave those weeds, the time you are harvesting, you'll see that there are weeds that have also seeds, So those seeds, when they drop on the ground, they will multiply in the coming season. But as a farmer who knows sustainable farming, we need to get rid of these weeds at early stage and at a later stage.
Great. There are various methods of weeding. What are some of the recommended weeding methods in conservation farming?
Thank you so much. There are mechanical weeding that falls under mechanical. We have cultural methods that we can tap into. We have we can use herbicides, you know, and for those farmers that are knowledgeable in that aspect. So there are other cultural means that I may highlight that are very critical, that may fall under cultural and also conservation, what conservation promotes. First of all, we need to understand that we need to suppress these weeds. And one of the conservation agriculture foundation or non-negotiable is residue retention, meaning that when a farmer grows their crops, they need to retain their crops and put them in those interrow spacing. So when you place them on those interrow spacing, those are some of the things that will rot, also add value to soil nutrition and so on. One of the roles of those residues is to suppress weeds. When you cover the soils with those residues, the ground is covered. You know, it inhibits the growing of the weeds. So it's one area of controlling weeds without using any mechanical or pesticides or whatever other means. So this is an important area of weeding by incorporating residue retention. There are other farmers that may go a step further by also incorporating issues of mulching, mulching, in the case of residue retention, like I mentioned, but also through cropping systems. You know, there are some of the crops that are very good, and these are cover crops. They cover the land, you know, and to avert also a situation of the sunlight, you know, hitting direct on the ground, and also creating an environment that is conducive, you know, for the weeds to surge. So in that case, cover crops are also very important. And some of these cover crops, you know, we promote them in conservation agriculture. Other means, depending on how big, you know, the field is, some of our smallholder farmers may use a hoe, mechanical weeding, just using a hoe to weed their fields. But for those farmers that are trained or they've vast information and technical know-how, like conservation farming unit we do to our farmers in terms of helping our farmers to scale up their weed management aspects, because this has been giving a lot of pressure, especially to our smallholder farmers. In 2007, Conservation Farming Unit actually introduced the weed, you know, management for smallholder farmers. This is why you've seen a lot of smallholder farmers this time around using herbicides. This is the initiative that was begun by Conservation Farming Unit in 2006, 2007, and this is how you saw the introduction now of the packaging to 1 liter, 500 liters and grams of different formulations of these weed killers to help our farmers also to manage their fields effectively. But with the chemicals, it is very important, like I mentioned, for the farmers to have vast information in this. We train farmers on how to manage this. Some of the farmers that have not used these chemicals effectively, they are the ones that will say that the chemicals destroy the soils because they don't know the type of chemical to use and to avoid, and how to spray, and the conditions to follow, and what chemicals do they use for what particular crop, and also for at what stage do they use that, based on the fact that we need to emphasize issues of safety, especially where the usage of chemicals is concerned. So these are some of the things that farmers can utilize, you know, to get rid of weeds.
Great. You've just talked about herbicides, which is one of the way of doing away with the unwanted crops in farmers' fields. Now, this same method of weeding comes with implications.
Yes.
And when we are talking about soil health, it's very important in farming. How can farmers still maintain the use of herbicides while also protecting the environment?
Emmanuel, that is a very, very important question. We have our smallholder farmers, the herbicides are working for them very well. But we have others, it's not working for them because they don't know how to use this. Conservation agriculture endeavored, from 2007 to train various farmers in this aspect. First of all, it is very important to understand the labels of every chemical that is herbicides, because some of the chemicals are highly toxic and we do not allow them. These are chemicals that have the red band around the bottle. Down the bottle, there's a red band there. We have other bottles that have a green band, and others have blue band, others have yellow band. These talk about different levels of toxicity: blue, yellow, and green. They are toxic, but they are much better, but with safe usage of these herbicides. But we have those that are red banded, and in this we have the category of paraquat, which is not good, for our farmers because they are highly toxic. And you'll see many of our farmers using these because they are effective in terms of contact usage. Immediately you spray, you see the effects are happening right there. And many of our farmers who delay weeding and following up the processes that we've talked about, and when they look at the crop and they see a lot of weeds there, they opt to go for paraquat, which is highly toxic and it's not recommended. Actually, Zambia is not in favor of these chemicals. I'm wondering how they are on the market this time around. And for EU, they banned these chemicals somewhere, I think in 2005. They don't use them because they are also associated to some of these chronic, diseases. So for a farmer to use this, safety is important. They need to put on the gear, clothes, long clothes or overalls, shoes. They cover their face with goggles and also their mouths to ensure that they do not inhale some of these toxic materials. So for a farmer to use this is why I said they need to be trained. And we are very cautious in this aspect because we do not allow farmers to use these highly toxic substances, because we know the effect to farmers themselves, we know the effect to the environment, and also to the livestock also, around the farmers. So there are two categories of these, herbicides. Farmers should know, there are non-selectives and selectives. Those that select in terms of maize, those that select in terms of legumes, groundnuts, soya, and all that. We have those that are selective in terms of glyphosate, which kills anything green, anything, even the crop it can kill. So farmers should know what type of crop and what type of weed can I use this particular herbicide. What nozzle should I use? Usually for the orange nozzle we use for this selective and equivalent nozzles. For the blue nozzles we use for selective and any other equivalent nozzle for different reasons, so that a farmer is able to apply sufficient herbicides that are required to inhibit the growth of these weeds. So for all these, farmers need to be trained. The walking speed, the pumping speed and all that, because some of the farmers who are not trained may not know how best to use some of these herbicides. So for us, we do not allow any farmer who is not versed with this information to go this way. But for farmers that are trained by Conservation Farming Unit, we've actually even enhanced the training, to camp officers and the Minister of Agriculture, CFU, rolled out this training, many times to ensure that we have a larger voice that could reach out to our farmers in the aspect of usage of these herbicides that are good, to sustain, the production levels for our farmers.
Great, great. Dr. Bulaya, there is one aspect in farming that has been neglected by many farmers, and that is soil testing, knowing the status of their soils before they use any chemical or apply any synthetic fertilizer to their soils.
Yes.
What advice can you give to the farmers who is watching right now?
Thank you so much. You know, for our farmers in our country, many of them are not used to this aspect of testing their soils. And this is very critical because the level of the fertilizers, you know, the fertilizers that we apply actually is political, political because long time ago, actually, in Kaunda days, farmers started using 4-Beso for top dressing, which is actually not what is required. You know, we need to do soil testing so that farmers can know the specific elements of the nutrients that are required in those particular fields, because some of the farmers may need more of nitrogen, others may need less of nitrogen. So the phosphorus and also potassium, all these, they may need different levels other than what they're applying now. So applying 4, everywhere, of Beso, of D, it may not be helpful with certain types of soil. So it is very important our farmers to understand the soil nutrition, because they will get to know the nutrient imbalance and be able to apply the specific nutrients that are required. And in this case, the government is helping the farmers in a way. I think this is the 10-year project which is still underway to ensure that the government does the mapping, soil mapping throughout the country, so that even the formulation of the fertilizers will dependent on the soil type of those particular regions, if it is northwestern, if it is northern, and so on. The government has invested resources in doing the soil mapping, other than following up this blanket issue of 4-Beso, 4 urea. So I think this will help to a larger extent of those farmers who may not have resources to do soil testing. But it's important for these major elements, NPK, farmers can do the soil testing at Onza and many others, and ensure that they get to know what they need to apply, because this will help, to sustain, our environment and also the productivity levels.
Great, great. Even as we come to the end of this interview, how do good fertilizer application and proper weeding contribute to climate-smart agriculture?
Yes, we need to ensure that there is sanity, and sanity refers to how clean the field is and how are we managing some of these pertinent resources to get advantage in terms of adding to productivity. What we feed in is what we get. If you don't do much in terms of feeding the soil well, then you will not get, what you are not expected. You cannot put into the bank minimal resource and expect to get more. So it's what you deposit and is what you get at the end of the day. So it is very important for our farmers to embrace conservation agriculture, because it provides systems on how well we can manage the soil nutrition and how well we can manage the practices that are very essential to add value, to the productivity, which is badly needed in our country. For us, like we put it, mainly, the farmers get less than 1.2, 1.5, metric tons per hectare. Some of the factors are these factors that we've talked about, nutrient imbalance, and sometimes it's pressure where weeding is concerned. So timely management of these important aspects can add value actually in terms of contributing to the productivity. So conservation agriculture provides all these systems that is very important for our farmers across the country to embrace climate smart agriculture that provides these systems on how we can manage our resources well and on how we can remain productive despite the climate variability.
Wonderful, wonderful. In your closing remarks, Dr. Bulaya, your word of encouragement to the farmers who are watching right now with regards to proper fertilizer application and weeding practices.
Thank you so much to all our farmers that are watching us now. It is very important to understand that we need to apply all these principles that we've talked about appropriately to enhance production and productivity. Where we lag behind in terms of information, the Ministry of Agriculture camp officers are there that are able to guide you on how best you can manage this. Even other farmers that are experienced in this aspect, are able to guide in this aspect. And also for those that may need much more help, Conservation Farming Unit is there. You can reach us on our platform, Facebook page, you can reach us on our website, and we're able to provide all these important information that are required to enhance production and productivity. Actually, we've done a lot of production in terms of literature that our farmers can access, on our website.
Great. Dr. Ulaya, thank you so much for coming to Inside Agriculture.
The pleasure is mine, thank you.
Great. There you have it, dear viewers. This is where we've come to the end of Inside Agriculture. Today we were discussing fertilizer application and weeding techniques in conservation farming. I have been your presenter, Emmanuel Mwemba. Until next time, for now it's goodbye and continue enjoying the rest of our programming. Thank you. Inside Agriculture is the program that keeps you informed and empowered on everything trending in the world of agriculture. This program interprets government agricultural policies, showcasing resilient farming practices, cutting-edge technologies, and the inspiring individuals driving innovation. Are you a farmer, agriculture entrepreneur, or simply passionate about food security and national development? This is your platform to stay ahead and get involved. Don't miss out. It is your time to be part of Zambia's agricultural transformation and contribute to economic growth and food security. Join us every Sunday at 14:30 hours only on Zanis TV, the People's Channel.